Hey YouTubes, I'm Saibrock.
And I'm Nathan.
I'm the one with the channel.
And I'm the one with the game.
And today we're going to be reviewing a new game called Rex. It just came out a few weeks ago, and we've both been very excited about it. I apologize in advance. I've had a cold the last few days, so if my voice starts getting crackly, or if he has to fill in for me, please understand.
Here's the board as it's laid out in the middle of a game. On the board you see many sectors that are part of Mechatol Rex, which is the Lazex Empire's capital. In the game, the theme of the game is basically that the humans are upset at being controlled by the Lazex, so they brought this force right here called the Soul Dreadnought Fleet, and it's flying around destroying everything. The various other factions have decided to use this to their advantage to try to overthrow the Empire. Over here on the side, we have some areas for some cards. We have influence cards and strategy cards. We have the influence tokens, which are basically the money within the game of Rex. And up here we have the graveyard, where where dead units and leaders are sent. We have various symbols on the board, such as the red symbol there, meaning that these are capitals, and the green symbols are shields. Throughout the game, the Soul Fleet will move around the board and it will try to destroy everything in its path, unless there's a symbol down there showing that sector is safe. Other symbols, such as the blue symbol, shows that there's a possibility that influence will show up there throughout the game. As you can see, you move your units around, collecting resources and collecting influence. And attempting to control these capitals. There are 5 capitals, one in each corner and one in the middle, and for one player to control them all, you have to control 3 to win. And unfortunately, that's an incredibly hard thing to do. And I think one thing that we didn't mention in the beginning was that to win this game, it almost certainly takes a great deal of alliances or cooperation. You have to form an alliance. Unfortunately, that can't be done all the time. It has to be done when you draw cards from the influence deck that say that you can then form alliances or break alliances. These are the player cards, the player race cards that each player will choose. Each one has its own special abilities, and those definitely change the strategies you're going to decide on when you're playing this game. For example, here's the Barony of Letnev. These guys are extremely backstabbing and deceitful. They have more strategy cards than others, and they also have more trader cards. And trader cards are important in battles because with those you can win battles without taking any losses. There are other races, such as the Lazek, that gain resources from other players when they buy things such as strategy cards or when they deploy troops. There's also other races, such as the Zitcha, and that have special abilities, such as these tokens here. There's a token for each race and also for each turn, and there are only 8 turns in the game. And this particular race gets, at the beginning of the game, gets to choose a race and a turn. And at the end of the game, if they chose the winning race and on the winning round, they win the game instead. And I think that's kind of neat. Fantasy Flight recommends that you only play this if you have all 6 players, because as you get fewer players, it does increase the chances that they're going to be correct. And it's not something they should rely on, but they can try to push the game in the direction they want to go. So you have to be careful with races like this when they want to help you to win, and you gotta wonder, well, did they pick me in this round? Or maybe that's why they want me to win.
Alright, so we have the board set up about how it would be in the middle of a 6-player game, as we mentioned. And you notice the great big Dreadnought Fleet. Well, it doesn't exactly just sit there. At the end of each round, the players draw what's called a bombardment card during the bombardment phase. And that card will determine how far the Dreadnought Fleet moves, destroying everything in its path that isn't shielded. So, let's say the bombardment card that's drawn is a 5. That means the Dreadnought Fleet is going to move from its Sector 5. As you can see, these are both Sector 5, so it's currently over both of these sectors. And it's going to move to Sector 6, Sector... where is 7? There we go. These are both Sector 7, Sector 8, Sector 9, onto Sector 10. And it's going to move through all those spaces on its way there. So as we move it from Sector 5 down to Sector 6, nothing's there. Moves into Sector 7. The Hassan, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, is here in this stronghold. However, notice the stronghold is shielded, so they are protected. However, as long as the Dreadnought Fleet is here, they cannot move. They cannot put additional troops here. No one can move into here, and they cannot move out. Fortunately, the fleet is just passing through and does not stay there. So they go to Sector 8, which you notice is not a protected area. So all of the troops and all influence in that area are destroyed. And then you move the troops on. The Zicha has some troops here, but this is a protected area, so they are safe. And then you finally move it down here, where there is just some influence that is destroyed. Now over here, the next spot it goes into is 11, where the Soul player has a couple of troops. He's there, and he's fine, because the Soul player is able to look at the top card of the bombardment deck, so he knows how far the fleet is going to move on its on the next bombardment phase. So he knew he was perfectly safe right here. So now we get to one of the integral aspects of the game, forming alliances. As you can see here, this is an influence card. And the very first step of the game is that you deal out an influence card and place the indicated amount of influence on the two sectors listed. But there are other kinds of influence cards in the deck, such as the Soul Soul Offensive, which destroys all the influence and units that are in the two sectors played by the last influence card. There's also, and this is really intriguing as a game mechanic, the temporary ceasefire. When this is played, players are able to form and break alliances at will. A player can ally with up to 2 other players, and when he does so, he gives the other players in his alliance the racial ally cards for his race. For example, if the Lazax allies with someone, he gives them one of this ally advantage cards, which allows the Lazax player to give him influence before he bids on a strategy card. Since the Lazax gets all the influence bid on strategy cards, this is going to give him the influence right back and ensure that the strategy card stays within his own alliance. It's very easy to get a pseudo-monopoly, making sure that no one else outside the Lazax's alliance can get strategy cards on the cheap. There's also the Hassan ally card, which allows his allies to benefit from his own race's ability to deploy units at half cost or teleport units for 1 influence per unit. Every race has their own copies that gives other races the benefit of their own racial advantage. However, although the benefits of allying with other players is obvious, the drawback is that in order to win by yourself, you only need to control 3 strongholds at the end of a round. When you ally with 1 person, you need to control 4 collectively. When you ally with 3 players, the 3 of you collectively need to control all 5 strongholds. So it actually gets a bit harder to win if you're in a big alliance. At the end of the game, if an alliance won, you're able to play betrayal cards, which have a condition listed down here and a number. If anyone in the alliance after winning plays a betrayal card and has successfully completed these objectives, then he wins by himself. Except that his other allies are able to play their own betrayal cards, and if theirs are a higher number, they win instead. So you can accept that you win as a group, or you can try to backstab your friends even after the game ends. It's important to note that the only time you can make or break alliances is during a ceasefire. You cannot do it at will.
During the bidding phase, you're going to draw out 1 strategy card for each player that is able to bid this round. For example, if somebody has too many strategy cards in their hand already, they won't be allowed to get any more strategy cards, in which case you would leave them out and you wouldn't draw that many cards. This each time for each card you're going to bid on the card, but you don't get to look at it. The only people that do get to look at it are the Jolnar. They get to look at it and say, oh, you know, well, let's see here. This atmospheric ionoger, this is a good card. I want this, and they might bid a lot, or they might pretend like they want a card, which will make others think that the card is very valuable and will bid a lot as well. So it goes around 1 influence, 2 influence, 3 influence, then somebody passes, goes through until everyone passes, and then the person with the highest bid gets the card. For example, you have here, this is a defense card. You can tell from the symbol up here, it says the atmospheric ionizer, and it tells you what it does down here at the bottom. Most defense cards will negate attack cards that your enemy could play against you. Other cards that are not part of battles, for example, are this double agent card. This allows you to get a second traitor, whereas normally you would only have 1 traitor card. You can get an extra one with this, or you can see what your opponent's traitor is, which can be very useful if you're afraid that they might have your traitor card. But we'll get to traitors and how they are used in the battle section. Here we have a mercenary. This just adds strength to your forces in battle. That's very useful. And there are all sorts of other cards. Several of them are used outside of the game, such as the field or outside of battles, which this one's used during the influence phase. And so, but most of them are battle cards. They're used within battles. So but you only get to have 4 in your hand, so you have to be careful which ones you have, so that you don't get stuck with worthless cards. And sometimes it can be more difficult to get those cards out of your hand.
So here's an example of combat. Here we see that the Lazax, the Jolnar, and the Zcha are all in the same spot at the end of the maneuvering phase. When it moves into the combat phase, the first player in turn order needs to decide which one he wants to attack. For these purposes, we'll say that the Zcha is the first player, and he has to choose which one of these he wants to attack. But the Zcha has a special ability which allows him to turn his troops face down and make them immune to combat for 1 turn. This means that his troops basically count as not being there. He won't gather influence, and he won't be able to fight anyone, and he doesn't count for controlling strongholds, if this was a stronghold. So then play moves on to the next player. Let's say it's the Lazax. You'll notice that the Lazax has 2 regular units and 2 mechanized units, these bigger ones. The mechanized units have a fighting strength of 2 each. So even though he only has 4 units here, he actually has a strength of 6. The Jolnar has a strength of 7 units here, and so the Jolnar has a distinct advantage. However, the reason why they're fighting here is to try and get this influence that's in the spot. Whoever is left at the end of the turn gets to grab up some influence. And since when you lose troops, even if you win in combat, you need to make sure that you have enough left to gather all the influence you want. So the very first thing that's going to happen is that both players are going to get one of these battle wheels. The battle wheels will determine how many troops you're committing to battle, which leader you're going to use, and whether you're going to play an attack card, a defense card, or both, or neither, of course. So the first thing that you do when you're in battle is choose how many troops you want to send by moving the battle wheel to select a number. The number can be anywhere from 0 to the fighting strength of the troops that you have on the spot. So for the Lazax, let's say he wants to commit 4 strength of troops. So that means that if he wins, he'll lose these 2 and 1 of his mechanized units. So he's going to turn his battle dial to 4. And then he's going to commit a leader. He's going to play the Praetor, and he's going to put it in the attack and defense slot. Note that at this time he doesn't actually pick a attack card or a defense card, only that he is going to play one of each. And then he places his battle wheel face down. The Jolnar player, remembering that he wants to have units in the space after the battle, is only going to commit 3 units, so that when his other 4 are left at the end of the turn, he gets to collect all 8 influence, because each unit collects 2 influence. So he's going to select 3 on his battle dial. He's going to throw in this leader, which is not very good, but let's say it's the only one he's got, or he's just that confident. And he is also committing an attack card and a defense card. So then he's going to turn his battle wheel face down as well. And once both players have done that, they both reveal, and they both see what the fighting strength is being committed, and what the what leader the other player is using, and whether or not they're going to commit attack cards or defense cards. At this time, both players are going to commit one attack card and one defense card. You can only commit up to one, and you must commit them if you declare that you are going to commit them by putting the leader in the right spot. So let's say the Lazax commits these two cards, and the Jolnar commits these two cards. We'll go ahead and put the battle wheels out of the way. Once both players have committed both cards, you turn them over and see what happens. The X-35 biological weapon says your opponent's leader is destroyed unless he committed an atmospheric ionizer or a tactical retreat card. And then you get influence equal to the leader's strength. Well, as it turns out, the Lazax did commit an atmospheric ionizer, so the biological weapon is negated and does nothing. The Lazax played an energy rifle, which destroys the opposing leader unless he committed a Megan energy shield or a tactical retreat card, which, guess what? He did. How convenient. So, neither of those does anything. So now it just comes down to their fighting strength. And as you can see, 5 does not beat 7. It also does not beat 8, by the way. So, the Jolnar is actually destroyed. All of his troops are lost, and they go into the dead area. And the Lazax loses the number strength of troops equal to what he committed, so he's going to lose all of these. If he committed even one more strength of troop, he would have to leave this behind and kill this. So anyways, so he leaves that there, and near the end of the turn, during the collection phase, he's going to start collecting influence. 2 influence for the 1 unit that he has there. And remember that the Zitsha doesn't count because they're face down, so he gets influence. Now, had the battle turned sour for the Lazax, he had the option of playing... Oh, I'm sorry. Had the battle turned sour for the Jolnar, which it very much did, he could have played the Praetor Traitor card in order to say that the Praetor leader that the Lazax used was actually on his side, and the Lazax would immediately lose. All their troops die, and the Jolnar would not lose anything. So that's battle.
All in all, I really like it. And I've been looking forward to this game for a long time. The parts of the game are of the highest quality, which we've come to expect from Fantasy Flight games. We have a few of theirs in our collection as well. The deep, immersive strategy of the game is very reminiscent of Cosmic Encounter, with the different alien powers interacting with each other. But this introduces an additional layer of political strategy that Cosmic Encounter doesn't have. Forming and breaking alliances when it's most convenient for you in order to secure a victory for yourself. Additionally, all the alien powers really seem very powerful. I've been the Lazax and the... what was the other one that I was just now?
Which one? What was your power? You were such a...
I was the
university.
Jolnar.
Yeah,
I was
the University of
Jolnar.
Jolnar, yeah.
And both of them have such extreme power in their own arenas that it seems unfair. You're thinking, how can anyone compete with me? Turns out. Anyways, the playtime...
Yeah, he stood no chance.
The playtime is about 3 to 4 hours, which I think is what they advertise, roughly.
Yeah.
Even with a slow, distracted group, which is our group. But... That said, there is a learning curve. Your first couple of rounds when you play this game are going to be very slow and very long, because everyone is learning all the steps.
Yeah. Our second game, I think, was... I was really surprised at how we burned through those rounds.
That was super fast.
Yeah. The thing that I've seen in the forums that a lot of people have talked about when I've been looking at this game is the bidding process slows things down. And for the first game, that was especially true. The bidding round, or the area where you get your strategy cards, just bogged us down. But the second time we played it, it was just snap, 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 and it was done.
Well, upon rereading the rules, we found a few places where we were actually supposed to be skipping certain steps, and it made things a little bit faster.
And there are errors in the manual, so be sure to get the errata on the on Fantasy Flight's website.
Or just download the rulebook PDF from Fantasy Flight's website, which contains all the errata in it.
That's true. Yeah, which you should probably do anyway for all games at Fantasy Flight. So, as far as the cons are concerned, there aren't really any. A lot of people didn't like the colors. I thought the colors were fantastic on the board. A lot of people made it references to Arkham Horror, which I don't have that game. I would love to play it, but yes, I kind of see the Arkham Horror in it, but I still like it. I think it works very well, and it makes it easy to find where you want to move on the board. One thing I was concerned with, and I'm going to reach over here, and the battle dials, when you're placing your troops on here, in fact, if you saw it more closely, there's a little part right here where it's flipped up already. We've only played 2 games. When you put your little commander in here, it can start to fray these, and I'm afraid that over time, especially with us playing this game a lot, we're going to see a lot of wear on these things and eventually break. I would have liked to have seen these things made of like some sort of plastic, been a lot more durable. But otherwise, I really liked everything. I'm definitely going to get my my Soul Dreadnought Fleet painted.
Speaking of the Soul Dreadnought Fleet, you want to talk about that and the box?
Oh yeah, well, a lot of people, I know a lot of people were wanting an unboxing, but as soon as I grabbed it, I ripped it open and opened my box, so I couldn't film an unboxing. But one thing I was disappointed in was that there weren't really enough bags to keep all the pieces, so I got another bag, a separate bag for the pieces. But then also in the box, the Soul Dreadnought Fleet has to be taken apart between games because it doesn't fit in the box with the board and everything. You have to take it apart and put it in in the channel there.
But even without the board, it's just a little bit.
Just a little bit. If Fantasy Flight had made this board just a tiny bit bigger, everything would have fit in there, and I would have liked that because then I could have, I wouldn't have to take the thing apart all the time. It's just one of those things. But otherwise, I've been very pleased with this game. I think it'll probably be in a regular rotation in our game group.
One of my biggest gripes with the game actually is that nowhere in the entire game is there any clue on how to pronounce the Zcha race. Serious, 2 X's it starts with. What am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah.
Fortunately, you don't use them in a 5-player game, so I didn't have to worry about that our last playthrough.
Yep. I'm sure there's probably some Twilight Imperium nerds that can give us the exact pronunciation for
right,
that.
but see, you and I have never played Twilight Imperium, or Dune for that matter, the game that this is based on.
I will say that I know my brother and I here, we were talking a lot about how we wanted a game that was like Twilight Imperium because we liked the theme from what we had read, but we didn't want the extended play time. It takes too long to set up, too long to play. Our game group would never play it.
As I said, we have a very slow, distracted play group. It would take us days to get through a game of Twilight Imperium.
So we've always talked about, when are they going to come out with Twilight Imperium Light? We have Elder Sign and a lot of people call Elder Sign Twilight Imperium, or call it Arkham Horror Light, and so I kind of was saying when I showed Matthew this, I said, this is about as close as we're going to get to Twilight Imperium Light.
And as an example of the learning curve, when I breezed through the rulebook the first time, it was very complicated looking. I said, there is no way that this is going to fly with your... How old is she?
She's 13. Our youngest player is 13 right now. So
very distracted.
Yeah.
But then on a second read-through, I found, this just looks complicated. Mm-hmm. It's really very simple. And in fact, the game comes with little cards that sort of walk you through every step of the turn, and what does which cards do what to which.
That's helpful for people that when you're first starting out, you have a little reference card. So. But I think somebody else in the game group mentioned that they thought when they were hearing us explain the rules to everybody that, this is way too complicated. And then when they started playing it, they realized, this is really a breeze. It's just a lot of steps. So.
Right. So I guess that's our review of Rex.
Hope you like it.
I recommend it very strongly.
Mm-hmm. I give it 2 thumbs up. I enjoyed it.
All right. Thank you. We're going to be sued by Siskel and whoever he's with now. or Ebert, I guess. I guess Siskel did.
Be sure to subscribe to his channel, by the way, because I'm sure that he'll have plenty more games. As I buy more games, he'll review some more. So,
all right. Well, y'all have a good one.